Welcome to the Sober and Happy podcast, where we talk about all things recovery related, how to navigate the challenges that we'll face along the way on our journey towards our best lives, and how we could go from living a life of simply just being sober to a life where we're both sober and happy. The question I get asked the most from people about my recovery is, what is the most important thing you've done to stay sober for so many years? The answer is easy for me. It is because I have established and maintained a healthy routine. Over the years, I've replaced bad habits that set me back with healthy ones. So where do we even start when it comes to establishing healthy routines? Can we change too many things at once? And if so, what should we be prioritizing? Well, that is what we're going to discuss today. So buckle up. This is going to be a great episode. Welcome back. I was inspired to talk about this today after having a pretty rough week. Last Thursday, right before going to bed, I was picking up some clothes off my floor. As I bent over, I felt a really sharp pain in my back. Back pain is nothing new to me, as I've dealt with really tight muscles most of my life. Having a career that involves a lot of sitting has not helped, but this was something worse. I went and saw my physical therapist, and the first thing she asked me was, "Have you been keeping up with the stretching routine I gave you?" I told her that I was at first, but I started feeling better and stopped doing it every day, and eventually stopped completely a couple of months ago. She looked at me and basically told me, "Well, that's probably why you're here today." As I lay there as she was putting me through the excruciating pain of trying to fix the mess that I made, I started thinking about how I've had a similar conversation with countless people who've come to me after they relapsed. They tell me that they aren't sure what happens. Everything was going so well for a while, and seemingly out of the middle of nowhere, they relapsed. As I thought back to my current back injury, although the injury seemed to happen suddenly as I was bending over, the signs were already there. My muscles have been getting tighter over the last couple of months. I started having some old aches and pains returning, but since the pain level seemed manageable and it wasn't greatly affecting my day-to-day activities, I kept telling myself that I'd get back to my stretching routine tomorrow. And each day, tomorrow got bumped out one more day until I found myself lying on the floor in pain. This is the same pattern so many people go through in the getting sober and relapsing cycle. Our addictions cause tremendous pain, which motivates us to want to quit drinking or using drugs. Being highly motivated by our pain initially, we do whatever it takes at first and find a great rhythm of things that are working really well. But then the pain starts subsiding because our new routine is working so well. Then we justify taking a day off or maybe start dabbling with some old habits. We deserve it after all the hard work we've done, right? But what usually starts as a day off turns into a couple of days off, then a week, and then before we know it, we have completely stopped doing everything that was working. If we are lucky, we recognize it before the worst case scenario and get back on track. Unfortunately, we often don't get our wake-up call until we find ourselves on the floor wondering how we got there again. So if establishing and maintaining healthy habits is so important, how do we even get started? Here's the good news. Most of us are really good at creating and maintaining habits. They just have all been bad habits. Think about all the hesitations that we often have before we decided to quit drinking. How am I going to be able to enjoy hanging out with my friends without drinking? How am I going to be able to drive by the liquor store on the way home without stopping? What about holidays, summertime, barbecues, sporting events, concerts, weekends, random Tuesday nights, and the list goes on and on. As you see, everything I mentioned is a habit that we created that we have maintained for so long that we can't even imagine not doing it. If we are able to create bad habits that are so strong that we completely resist changing them, then we also have the ability to create good habits just as strong. We just need to start. I'll give you a warning when starting. The more things you try to change at once, the harder it is to be successful. There has been a multitude of studies that showed with each thing we add on simultaneously, our chances of success at any of them drastically decrease. You will see this a lot when people first get sober. It is natural to want to change everything. You'll hear people say, "I'm going to quit drinking, quit smoking, start going to the gym, meditate every morning, go back to school, go on weekly date nights with my spouse, and have dinner with my kids every night starting today." Then when we fail at one of those things, we start thinking, maybe I can't change. And usually there's a domino effect from there. Now we could have one big thing we want to change and several small changes and habits that support that, but I usually suggest not trying to change everything at once. For example, let's say your goal is to go home to your family after work instead of the old habit of stopping at the bar every night. But the temptation seems too strong every time you drive by the bar and you keep failing. The bigger habit you're trying to establish is going home to your family every night. However, having identified that driving by the bar after work has been a temptation that has been too much sometimes, you could establish a supporting habit by changing your route on the way home so you're not driving by the bar. One big change with the supporting habit to go with it. So if we're only going to focus on a limited number of changes, then what should we focus on first? I would look at habits that are causing you the most challenges in your life. Let's say you go to the bar after work every Thursday night because, well, Thursday's the new Friday and we decided to have a pre-weekend night out. And as you're trying to stay sober, you do really good Monday through Wednesday. Then Thursday comes along and all day as you're sitting at work, all you could think about is how hard it is going to be to not go out that night. And eventually you give in because giving in often seems easier than continuing the internal battle. That is probably the first habit that you should focus on. We need to establish a new habit for your Thursday nights. Ask yourself, what else might you enjoy doing instead? If you don't enjoy doing the activity or get a lot of fulfillment from the results of it, you are less likely to maintain it. Since probably the first day that I was in rehab, all I have heard about is how important meditation is for maintaining sobriety. So I've read books on meditation, I have taken months-long classes on meditation, and I've tried formal meditation more mornings than I could count. And I have enjoyed it exactly 0 times. I sit still, try to focus on my breath, and nothing. I don't enjoy it while I'm doing it, and I don't feel better afterwards. In fact, I'm usually more frustrated than when I started. However, I found I could get the same benefits that many of my friends who love meditating get by putting an audiobook on my phone, putting my headphones in, and walking around my neighborhood in the morning. The key here is trying something new, not giving up the first time, and giving it a fair shot. And if it isn't working, try something else. Much of recovery is about discovery, so we must be willing to explore to find the things that we enjoy. In fact, we may find an activity not that enjoyable at first, but the results of doing it provide so many positive results or fulfillment that it motivates us to keep doing it. For example, let's say you're newly sober. Your old routine was getting off work, going to the bar, hanging out with your friends drinking, and eventually making it home to your family. You know that spending more time with your family is important to you, so you start going home after work instead of going to the bar. So you're sitting at the dinner table, the kids are fussing and fighting with each other, you have that newly sober bundle of irritability just festering, and all you could think about is how sitting on that bar stool with your friends watching Monday Night Football sounds so much better right now. But you keep going home. You keep having dinner with your family. Then one night, one of your kids looks at you and says, "You know, I really love having you at home every night. It makes me so happy. I'm proud of you, Daddy." Then bam, your heart's filled with joy, and family dinners now are so fulfilling that you wouldn't miss one no matter what, no matter how much the kids might annoy you sometimes. That, my friends, is the power of establishing new and healthy routines. If we simply just stop going to the bar and did not replace it with something that we enjoy, we still would establish a new routine. It just would be thinking about the bar all day, white-knuckling it as we drive by the bar every day on the way home from work, then spending every evening wishing we were at the bar. That, my friends, is a recipe for becoming very bitter about your sobriety. But with a few small changes, finding something you enjoy doing instead, we will relieve ourselves of some of the struggle until it finally goes away. I challenge you this week to look at your day, see what current habit is holding you back the most, replace it with something new, be open to new ideas, establish that new habit, and repeat the process. One small change at a time can change your whole life. We just need to get started. So let's get started. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you're finding value from this podcast. If you are, I'm asking 2 huge favors from you this week. Share the episode with one person, and please subscribe to the podcast, both of which help it grow. New episodes come out each Friday, so I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, thank you so much for listening and keep living sober and happy.